I wanted to read an article I got.
From who?
One of my, I have a lot of people who send me things
Yes.
on my WhatsApp,
Yes.
who I interact with regularly without actually knowing exactly who they are.
Yeah, I get that too.
And this article this person sent to me, I feel like it is basically questioning the national attention and how we give it to things that are not necessarily the real issues. And I'll explain it. So
Okay.
this article is complaining about how, after a journalist did a story about students in Laboni Senior High School not having enough desks,
Okay.
the whole nation moved quickly to solve the problem. So he says the furniture that exposed Ghana's fatal blind spot. Now, the reason I feel like this article is interesting is that we are an urban radio station. That does not mean that we don't deal with rural issues. But his point was that it seems as if the urban agenda papers over much deeper cracks.
Okay.
So let me just read a few paragraphs and see if you agree with me. So
Okay.
it says the furniture that exposed Ghana's fatal blind spot. When Laboni Senior High School lacked furniture in November 25, the response was swift. This is November. Within 5 days of the Mirror's report showing Form 1 students sitting on floors and dining hall benches, the Ministry of Education mobilized. By November 24th, 3,282 mono desks had arrived at the prestigious Accra school. The media coverage was intense, the public outcry loud, and the government's reaction immediate. Then it goes on. Meanwhile, in hundreds of rural schools across Ghana's agricultural heartlands, students have sat on bare floors for decades. No cameras arrive, no ministers visit, no furniture comes. This double standard isn't just unfair, it's bankrupting Ghana's future. The ultimate mirage. Walk through Accra, Kumasi, or Cape Coast today. The evidence of rural neglect stares back from every corner. Gutters choked with waste, sprawling slums with infrastructure where infrastructure has collapsed, flooding that paralyzes neighborhoods for days, and traffic gridlock that costs the economy millions of cedis daily. These aren't random urban problems. They are the direct consequence of abandoning Ghana's villages unquote. When rural areas lack schools, clinics, roads, and electricity, people don't stay to farm. They migrate to cities designed for smaller populations. Then it goes on. Accra was built for roughly 2 million people, now strains under more than 4. The World Bank estimates that over 6% of Ghana's urban growth comes from rural-urban migration, not natural population increase. The real cost of inequality. Ghana's food security depends on rural farmers. Yet these same farmers send their children to school without desks, books, or sometimes even teachers. When a bright student from the northern region struggles through substandard education, while Laboni students receive 3,282 desks in 5 days, Ghana doesn't just lose that student's potential. It loses doctors, engineers, and agricultural innovators who could have transformed the very villages they fled. Instead, these rural youth arrive in Accra and Kumasi to become hawkers selling imported Chinese goods on Oxford Street. The government trumpets job creation statistics, but hawking isn't productivity, it's economic desperation dressed up as employment. The Upper East, Northern, and Volta region, Ghana's agricultural backbones, are hemorrhaging their youngest, strongest workers. The Ghana Statistical Service reports that these regions have the highest out-migration rates in the country. Who is left to grow the yams, maize, and rice that feeds the nation? Meanwhile, Ghana's food import bill has exploded. The country now imports over $2 billion worth of food annually, including rice and tomatoes that Ghanaian farmers could grow if they had support. The Bank of Ghana knows that food imports contribute significantly to the cedi depreciation, yet the connection to rural neglect remains invisible to policy discussions. The government response: plan another major city to ease Accra's congestion. It's a solution that solves nothing. Building new urban centers while rural areas collapse simply creates more destinations for migration. It's like adding buckets under a leaking roof instead of fixing the roof itself. If even a fraction of the billions earmarked for new cities went to rural electrification, farm-to-market roads, and quality rural education, the migration pressure would ease naturally. People don't abandon their ancestral lands because they hate farming. They leave because farming without roads, electricity, markets, or decent schools for their children is a sentence to poverty. The Laboni furniture crisis revealed something crucial. When urban Ghana demands action, the government can deliver with remarkable speed. 5 days after media reports to delivery. The question isn't capacity, it's priority. If the same agency applied to Laboni, went to schools in Boku, Wa, and Hohwe, Ghana's agricultural productivity would double within a decade. If rural roads receive the attention that Accra roads get, post-harvest losses, currently estimated at 30 to 40% for some crops, would plummet. If rural health centers functioned like those in Osu or cantonments, rural families wouldn't need to migrate for basic health care. The mathematics are simple. Invest in villages and fewer people migrate to cities. Fewer migrants mean less urban strain, better sanitation, manageable traffic, and cities that function. More productive rural population means cheaper food, stronger export capacity, and healthier city. So the choice. Ghana stands at a crossroads. Continue prioritizing visible urban crises while rural areas decay, and the urban problems will only multiply. Floods will worsen, slums will expand, and traffic will become unbearable, all while Ghana imports more food and the nation and the national debt grows. Or recognize that rural development isn't charity, it's enlightened self-interest. Every cedi spent on a rural school, clinic, or road is an investment in food security, urban livability, and national stability. The furniture arrived in 5 days at Laboni because people with platforms demanded it. Until Ghanaians demand the same agency for rural areas, the country will keep building new cities to house the refugees from its own neglected villages. A costly, endless cycle that benefits no one except those who profit from the chaos. I'm ending now. The floods in Accra and the empty classrooms in Navrongo are not separate problems. Let me repeat. The floods in Accra and the empty classrooms in Navrongo are not separate problems. They are two sides of the same national failure. And until Ghana sees them as one, the furniture will keep arriving in Accra while the villages empty out and everyone pays the price. Then he makes a correction. Accra's population varies by definition. Greater Accra region nearing 5.5 million 2021 census, and the urban metro area projected around 2.8 million 2025. Though some estimates place the metro area significantly higher, showing rapid growth, which with forecasts exceeding 9 million by 2050 for the greater area. So this article was forwarded to me actually a while back. I just happened to read through it this morning, and I thought it would be good to present that to the four of you for your quick thoughts for two reasons. This program made a lot of noise about the Ofankor and Sawam Road, and the road minister admitted that some of the noise we made led to his action. In fact, 2 weeks to the end of the year, the president went back to that road to make sure it worked. Yesterday, you raised a couple of issues about your travel to Tema. Within minutes, we got the road minister on the show, and there's echo. There was a lot of the road we discussed were urban. A lot of callers. So, of course, in the interview, I did mention some rural roads, but a lot of the callers, Tema roads, Beach Road, Abokobi, most of the roads that people send comments around, we are an urban radio station, although we have a broadcast arrangement. This person's argument is that the urban elite have the platforms, like the Citi Breakfast Show. So their proximity to power forces political leadership to prioritize urban problems. He believes that solving urban problems is not the national priority. Solving rural push factors which drive people to urban areas is the real issue. Second example, last week, medical doctors, a lot of them posted to, the Minister of Health said, Western North region, OT region, none of them had even showed up. Most of the rural regions didn't have anybody go. Most of the doctors want to stay in Accra. All right. Number two, GIPC data. Again, November, over 92% of new investments are in Accra. All right. Now, building new cities or fixing potholes or fixing traffic lights or doing all the things we ask for on this show is not a sustainable way of developing a country. So this really set me thinking that if we would redirect our attention to the push factors from the rural areas, we have a better chance of sustainable development. I say all this recognizing the fact that generally the discourse around cities is becoming more prominent. So globally, a lot of people are talking about cities becoming centers of economic development. But there's a London problem where in UK, over 40% of the economy is London-based. All their manufacturing hubs have gone down. Newcastle, Coventry, all the major manufacturing hubs in the UK have essentially been destroyed. And London's financial strength has sailed the UK economy. If you take London out of UK's economy will not even compare to even Sweden. So they're saying that our development model is flawed and is taking the form of the London one. Whereas if you go to Germany or even some of the Scandinavian countries, the development is more balanced. So if you go to Germany, yes, Bavaria is the biggest, but there's a lot. Frankfurt is there, there's Dusseldorf, there's Hamburg up north. The distribution of growth is more broad-based, but Ghana has become very Accra. And we, the influential media, are also very pro-Accra, pro our roads, our electricity, our boiler, and we are not focusing enough on the push factors from the rural areas. I don't know what you guys think, but this guy, it really set me thinking, and I feel like, am I doing something wrong here? Am I part of the problem? So let me start with Godfred. What do you make of this guy's article? It really shook me this morning. So I don't even have his name. I'm going to look for it, but please go ahead and your first time thoughts on this.
This guy.
Well, okay. You don't. Given the time.
No, you start. We'll continue.
Yeah, I thought I could just chip something in.
Let me deal with this. I know what you're coming to. So let him just deal with what he wants me to deal with.
Very well, go on.
You can focus on the very, very important matter that we are watching on our screen that we need to address.
Because I think it's a huge issue that requires
now
serious critique from us.
Okay.
I think the person has it spot on. Okay, in terms of what matters to us as a country, because if we take education, for instance, I do think that there has been more than enough attention drawn to the poor state of rural education. Kofi Asare, I don't think there's anything else Kofi Asare and his coalition can do in that regard. And I think fairly, there has been significant amplification of some of these problems. Perhaps it could be better, but I think there has been significant amplification of these problems. What we have lacked, and I am so happy he has, your author, he or she has brought this up, and perhaps we'll get the people who run this country thinking, who manage our development thinking, is how to grow some of these areas in an organized manner. So, for instance, how big is the town of Hershey? It's a very small town.
Yeah.
But why is Hershey valuable? Because there is something centered around Hershey. If I went to other parts of the world, I am sure we would find other parts of those countries where things are centered around those places. I take cocoa, which is something that is common for us, and I ask, what is the largest cocoa bean selling area? Okay, and what is the state?
Temaport.
What is the state of that area? So, if let's say it's somewhere in the Ashanti region, or somewhere in the Bono region, or somewhere in the Eastern region, and we went to the area around it, would it look like an area that sells the most cocoa beans? Not necessarily because it brings money, but there is movement around it, and it's supposed to help move the area in a certain way. But everybody seems to see a movement to the center as the great hope, But in what we've seen others try to do is to reverse that, where staying by the countryside is not a bad idea. And I think it's also ingrained in us from a young age here, socially and culturally, that if you live in the village, you are not enlightened. So nobody wants to be associated with living in the countryside, first and foremost. There is just generally a mental burden on you if you are in the village or you live by the countryside for most young people, because they want to be known as town boys, city boys, because that is when you get respect. It's not even about just money. It's simply about being regarded highly.
Is it perception or pragmatic? In the sense that, is it not because the rural areas lack the facilities which reinforces that perception? Because if, for example, you have a university UHAS in Ho,
yes.
If a rural area had something going for it, right? So somebody says, I live in Ejumako. What do you do there? I work at University of Winneba Ejumako campus.
Yeah.
I'm a registrar. It's not the same as I live in a town where there's nothing.
Yes.
So do you agree that that perception could have been enforced by the fact that the rural area also doesn't have the things which this author is arguing?
I could agree with you on that, but I would also still push a bit and say we just don't like being referred to as country people or rural people, irrespective of what is available. Because we have seen some well-endowed towns where people still just don't want to stay. Because if you ask them, they'll ask you, I don't know,
backroom.
Come to town. You understand?
So that's there.
Yes. There is this thinking that living there is backward, it is slow, and it's not progressive. But what we have seen is, in a certain arena, we have a lot of our urban rich now seeking to move slightly to those areas. You know that part of town a bit better than I do. 20 years ago, what was Oyarifa like? Are you Mensa?
They are all part of town now.
Ebri?
In fact, what you are describing, in a sense, agrees with the point he makes. He's saying that because of proximity to power and resources, Accra has expanded from Gudisberg Avenue to Oyarifa, because there's a KFC at Oyarifa, there's a shopping mall at Oyarifa, there's a China mall already there. So and it's not sustainable. Okay, so I want to go back to your Kofi Asare point. You're saying that Kofi Asare and the education people, for example, they amplify rural education gaps, but does the media amplify it enough? So, for example,
yes,
if you listen to, and this is more introspection.
Yes,
when I listen to our show every day,
we talk about this a lot.
No, our lived experience, because we are in Accra.
Yes.
The entry point for most of our discussions is what we go through. So, for example, yesterday, you were speaking about your visit to Tema.
Yeah.
And then in your discussion about the road, something came up and we started talking about roads. Then we called the road minister and we discussed roads. We discussed the national road, but generally speaking, a lot of the roads we emphasized were Accra roads.
Yes.
And the response of the duty bearer, because they know we have a platform, will be to what we say. Do you understand? So I'm saying that let's reflect a bit more on this, that the development model has problems already, but the role of media in shaping priorities is worsening the skew. For example, Sky wants to talk about market fires. Have you noticed a lot of these market fires are also urban?
Yes.
It's part of the problem he describes.
Yes.
There are too many people in the market. It's not well planned. We put too much pressure on the assemblies. When the real problem is that there are too many people living in a small space. Now, for example, if you said you're going to build larger markets in rural communities and build access roads so that people would go to those markets. So, for example, if weekends I'll go to Adeso to go and buy my food. Sweden used to be a big commercial town. All right? Asesewa was a massive market in those places.
Yeah.
Places like Joje, Keta, they were very vibrant in the yesteryears. All of those places have lost their economic vibrancy and everything is in Kantamanto. So 2 weeks ago I was complaining about why we're all going to Accra. All right? Now, somebody would drive from Somanya and come to Accra to buy paint. If the economy of the eastern region were done such that Koforidua could have a certain strength around, say, paint, then those of us in Accra could also go there. So I feel like this person is saying, if you keep discussing Accra problems and you get the government to solve Accra problems, you are just putting plaster on the sore. The real reason why you have the sore is that the rural areas are filling up into the urban area. So if you want to stop the urban chaos, do rural renewal.
Yes.
I think we need to admit this.
Yes, I admit to it and I agree. But I'm also saying this. So I'll stick with your paint analogy. They sell paint in Koforidua.
But it's not cheaper than Accra because they don't have the economy.
No, I'm just saying they sell paint in
Yes.
Koforidua.
Yes.
So rationally, if I live in Koforidua and I want to buy paint, I should be able to buy the paint in Koforidua and go home. They
But Accra have Fuche and Koforidua.
No. So you see, the thing is, why I should be able to just buy the paint and go home. It should never be a matter of hire for chain hunting mefaka a free Koforidua abeto paint to Accra and put together and still find it that it's cheaper.
No, the economists, you see, I asked a gentleman why he would leave Somanya and come to Accra. He says he won't come to Medina Market because he believes that in Accra, in fact, you even told me that in Accra, because of the aggregation, all the paint sellers are at a particular place.
Yes.
So you get variety. And in fact, some of the people coming to Accra to buy are also suppliers.
Yes.
So he'll come to Accra, buy for maybe 10 cedis and make it 15 in Koforidua. So if I want to do family painting and I have different things, I'll come to Accra and buy, or I'll get that 10 cedis. So the larger population in Accra, the lower prices in Accra, drives the traffic to Accra. And our programming as well also drives the attention to Accra. And because of our platform and our power, the government feels like when it solves our problems, they get less nuisance. Do you understand? That's why some politicians will tell you that you people sit in Accra and you talk. You don't know that there are more things happening in the rural areas. Because in a way, the rural areas, they don't have the power to speak out and they are not together.
Bernard, I'm not making a point, but I understand what he alludes to. It's a psychosocial problem. You talk about the option of coming all the way to Accra for cheaper paint. But that decision, respectfully, that is a poor decision that does not appreciate all that entails. You take away the fact that you are going to spend on transportation to move from Koforidua to come to Accra to get it for cheaper. You're not looking at your entire cost. You're just looking at the price.
And buy other things. So when I put the transport cost, and I even pay 10 cedis, and I'm trying to buy 6 different things, and I'm getting a margin of 10.
Why are we?
For my personal economics, Accra is still better.
The question is, why are we thinking this way, and why are we believing that necessarily saves us money? If you were living in the UK, would you take a train to go elsewhere just because the prices are cheaper?
Do you know the funny thing about what you've said? It's a great question. You know why? When I went to the UK last time, I didn't even want to go to London because London is more expensive. So if I live in Milton Keynes, the Tesco in Milton Keynes actually is probably more affordable than Tesco in London. Do you understand? So
this is a different situation where they can have these big retailers.
We are all economic animals. So everybody does.
But we are uniquely price determined. Our decisions, our economic decisions as individual Ghanaians is largely when we're doing the agri-fair. That was the bottom line. But I'm saying that I'm appreciating the psychosocial problem he's alluding to about a certain culture of it's better in Accra, it's cheaper in Accra, Accra is superior.
So let me admit that and say, let's not even use the pricing as the... You see, don't forget that this discussion is beyond pricing. Buying. The person is saying that the urban problem we face, the overpopulation, is not the pull factor, but the push factor. The pull factor is Accra is glamorous. Accra has the lights. The push factor is that...
Which is very relative.
But I'm saying that, no, I'm saying the push factor is more relevant that if I sit in this village, I won't get anything. I won't know anything. There's no doctor here. There's no opportunity here. Internet service is poor. Do you understand? Now, village issue. I know people from Ghana who live in the US or Canada or the UK who live in what you call a village.
Yes.
But they're very happy. Why? Because that village is not as deprived as a village. So if you measure gap between village in Ghana versus gap between village in UK or whatever,
it's a city.
So I feel like the question is, don't forget that your biggest problem on a day is the urban craziness, roads, refuse, street lights,
Crime.
you almost every day, your default is around the craziness of living in a city that's not well planned, that's not well managed.
That's not functioning.
That dysfunction is a consequence of excessive migration, which is a consequence of skewed development, right? So let's not look at it from a price issue. The point is, and the reason he makes the article interesting is that the president had even suggested he was going to build a new city.
So I'm not yet given my commentary
On this, yes.
I just wanted to highlight
Yeah.
the psychosocial problem he talks about, which
Okay.
is a stark reality in our part. So that's what I wanted.
Would you come to the point when we finish and discuss this? Would you appreciate the guys when we finish the break?
We all agree.
I don't want you to agree. I want you to discuss it.
We will
want to
discuss
it.
and we will concede to certain things, but in certain aspects too, they are not as simple. And
Because
so there may be a bit
my
of
worry now
disagreement.
is I'm asking myself whether I'm part of the problem. That's my concern. Whether
Bernard, I will explain that part.
yes, whether based on my or based on our focus over the past few years, we are not perpetuating this thing. That's my concern. Which is why I read it.
Are you looking at you in terms of this platform?
The platform, yes, the platform.
Hold on, the entire platform, as in
The Citi Breakfast Show.
and ChannelOne, or you're looking at the breakfast show?
Good question.
Because I'm asking this question,
Wonderful.
bearing in mind that we have regional reporters across all 10, 16 regions. And there have been occasions, I'm barely a year on the show, but there have been occasions where, for instance, we had the roads minister in the studio, and we had or when we were talking about Galamsey, we had our regional reporters bring to the fore on a national platform some of the intricacies of the things happening in their regions.
Thank you for the question. It's breakfast show because when you watch CNR, for example, there's no way you can say that as a media house we are urban skewed. In fact, when you watch CNR, which is our evening news bulletin, we are very rural focused, particularly on Fridays, Saturdays,
breakfast
and Sundays.
show.
So I am seeing this more from a breakfast show perspective.
So what balance do you want? Is your understanding that there should be 50-50 in terms of reporting?
Coverage is not the same as impact. So CNR can do a story about a school in Galosota, and it airs for 6 minutes, and people say, "Oh, child, this is really bad." But when 5 intelligent people sit on air for 3 hours a day for 52 weeks a year, and they use their eloquence and position to articulate issues consistently, that's platform. So that's different from the journalistic.
So for CBS,
what I'm trying to say is that as a media house,
okay,
I don't think you can accuse the media house overall of being urban skewed, because when you watch our programming across, there's a lot of balance. But I'm saying that when you look at the power of our most important platform, which is this one, I think we are guilty of that.
I disagree.
I won't call it guilt.
I completely disagree.
You see, that's why I was asking you, what is the balance? Is the expectation that we do as much rural stories as, so we are going to have a 50-50? We have to be reasonable in that expectation and whether that will work. Remember, what is the percentage of your rural audience as compared to your urban audience?
Good.
You're not going to put a conversation on the platform where what's the problem?
No, don't worry, we'll get to it. I'm sorry for getting in your way. There's an interesting message. That's all.
No, Kakra, go on.
Yeah, I've lost
Sorry.
my train of
No,
thought.
so you're asking about proportion. I will leave this here.
Because I don't believe that a balance necessarily must be 50-50.
I'll let you develop that point when I finish with Edwin. And listeners, I want you to be objective and help us, because I am a bit concerned after reading the article
I think it's a great article.
that maybe we are helping to perpetuate a skewed economic development model. So I'm happy to hear your views on whether we are over-urbanized in our coverage as a show. I admit that on the ChannelOne Citi FM platform, we are very broad-based, but I want you to help us on the show to analyze this. What I want you to tell us is, are we over Accra-centric? Are we over urban problem-centric? And number 2, do you agree with the author who says, if we don't start highlighting the push factors from our rural areas, we cannot have sustainable urban spaces or any sustainable development of any kind? Do you agree with that view, that just discussing urban problems, highlighting them and getting duty bearers to solve them does not address the long-term developmental problem, that rural areas are neglected, no teacher wants to go there, no doctor wants to go there, The roads are bad, the markets are bad, there's no economic opportunity, and therefore all the people move to Accra and Kumasi, and we have a skewed development. I'm going to take some comments before I take the inside comments. So, Caleb, if you can read some of the messages that have come in relation to this
Good
topic.
morning, Bernard. Just on a lighter note, I couldn't get Citi FM's I couldn't get access to the Citi breakfast show at my former place, but after moving to Accra, I got selected for the Citi Mother's Day celebration. It was a once-in-a-lifetime experience lodging at Peduase Valley Resort and enjoying quality time with my mom. If they keep concentrating on the opportunities in Accra, some of us will definitely take our chances because that's where the opportunities are. Check Enchi Elubo Road, Castro sent that. Bernard, did you read an English textbook in which we had a passage entitled The Market Day at Asesewa? That was in the 70s. Go to Asesewa today and see if you would like it. Go to Prestea and see how it looks like. Our leaders are just interested in developing not interested in developing the country in totality. Julius sent that from Mangwa. So go for it anymore.
All right. So let me come back in and take your comment on this, Kakra. You were trying to ask me why I am sort of pushing this angle of we are too focused on Accra, and is there a question of proportionality? My concern this morning is that as a big urban driven platform, how are we contributing to a skewed national development prioritization? Let me give another example to make it rich. Large urban areas don't need necessarily handouts from government for their district assemblies. They have large revenue potential. Most commercial enterprises are in urban areas. They can be taxed, or you can raise revenue from those. Traffic infractions, you can raise revenue from those. Parking lots, right? More money should be pumped to rural areas to develop them. If you run Tema or Accra or Kumasi, even from tickets for parking alone, you should be able to get enough money if you are really working. Yet they all scramble for DACF, they all use the same. It doesn't seem as if the urban areas are living up to expectation beyond all the problems that they face, which is why I feel like there should be a way of getting more support for rural communities to stem the flow into the urban areas and also to secure equitable development. What is your comment?
I mean, certainly you've hit the nail on the head in summarizing the brilliant article by this listener or whoever the author is. For me, I think that we need to understand or go to the heart of the problem in trying to find out or figure out solutions so that the entire concentration of our development, or a large percent of it, is focused on Accra or Kumasi or the major cities, the urban areas. We first need to decolonize our development, because this is largely a colonial relic. How we are developing. Our economy continues to concentrate on moving raw materials or foodstuff to the Accras, the Takoradi ports, etc., for food to be transported out of the country. And unfortunately, in my view, having gained independence and becoming a republic, we continue to operate what we've had been described as a Gajisberg economy, what we inherited. We need to now properly break down or rip apart this colonial economy and then figure out what is the Ghanaian economy. The Ghanaian economy, or the economy for Ghana, or in fact, beyond economy, the development or the transformation for Ghana that carries along the rural parts of Ghana. Because the model that we have followed since independence has left them behind. We have forgotten that there's the need for quality education in rural areas, quality healthcare, quality road infrastructure, etc. Now, for me, that shows how much our decentralization system has totally failed, or has been has not been effective. Okay, because for instance, yesterday I was curious as to which assembly was to have dealt with the placing of the church in that particular area. Exactly. So that you made a fantastic point about how in other countries, even rural areas will have a certain specific commercial interest or agenda. When I lived in Spain, I didn't live in Madrid. I lived in the southern part. It's called Alicante, but it was a tourist town, but it was not necessarily an urban.
This was for your year abroad.
But I didn't do a year. I did a couple of months.
It's not be bad.
But
Alicante.
And what I learned about Alicante was that Alicante was known for producing the country's water.
Okay.
So if you were in Madrid or you were up north in Barcelona, the water you would drink most likely is from Alicante. So in trying to re-engineer the Ghana that we have led out of colonial rule, all the strings must fall off. I know it's not as simple as I'm saying it for the strings to fall off, but we need to start a process or a journey that will take us there eventually. And in doing that, we can properly look at all the regions and their uniqueness in terms of resources, in terms of the people, in terms of the culture, and then we can properly create commercialization that is a means to an end. The end is the transformational development.
So when you say decolonize, are you saying we should reject the model that the colonialists had, or we should just improve it? Because I sort of feel, when I read Gagisberg, I don't think everything he wanted to do was that bad. You know what I'm saying?
No,
so it's like,
it's not about, Bernard, it's not about the good or the bad of the
individual
the colonial. It's about the interest. Okay, whether or not what Gagisberg or whoever did was good or bad, the question is, what was the interest?
Okay.
The interest.
So the long-term interest.
It was an imperial interest. It was an interest to advance exactly the gains from resources elsewhere. So you have to now re-engineer that interest.
I get it.
So what is Ghana's interest? What does Volta region bring? If I ask you, you're from Volta region.
Yes, please.
What's one great thing about Volta region?
Tourism, beautiful place.
Exactly. If you ask Abeku, maybe you say Fanti Kenke. We need to pick the things. The amazing thing is that everything is already there for us as a country. Okay, we have great people. Yes, we can improve on our discipline. We've got great culture. We've got great food. So the question is, how are we thinking about the situation that we find ourselves in? How are we thinking about removing or decolonizing, removing the colonial interest?
Yeah.
Because if we are at the helm of affairs right now, if Ghanaians are at the helm of affairs right now, all interest must be Ghana.
Yeah. So I have a concern. How do we get the country to prioritize its own development? It sounds like a very funny question, but I feel like it's an important question, because when you analyze what we've done over the past 20 years or so, you can say we are basically crawling when we should be flying. And I don't think we've prioritized real development. What we've done is we have, Samuels like using this word, we have satisfied. We have tried to, let's do as little as we can get away with. Because the real issue is around winning elections and having access to power and using the power in ways which can secure the elite. It's not about a commitment to transformation, to say we're not going to allow a pregnant woman in Wali Wali to bleed to death. We will make sure she get access to a good hospital, she get access to anti-snake serum, she get access to a decent job and dignity. And we prioritize that irrespective of the voting consequence. It seems to me as if we are being idealistic. People like you and I, what we are saying is like, what are you talking about? Charlie, seek ye first the political kingdom, secure it, and then we will give the people what they demand for, so they will not give us too many problems. Which means sometimes what we even ask for here may not be the right thing for the country. So if, for example, I come on and say there's traffic at Ofanko, all right, yes, there's traffic at Ofanko, but that does not mean that the minister should prioritize Ofanko now. The minister should still go ahead and work on that Elubo to Takwa stretch, build that rural road, because you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Maybe they shouldn't listen to us because they are committed to an overall development plan, which is more broad based. You understand me? But
well, they should, because our role is complementary.
Okay.
You get it? We highlight some of the gaps that they may not be seeing, but if it tends to be the case that they only do what they hear the people clamor for, or they are chasing rants, then there is a reverse. Because ideally, you are supposed to have a larger picture, a broad-based picture. You travel to the nooks and crannies of the country when you are campaigning. You see the very poor, you see the very rich, you know, even wider than we can. Until our cameras and lenses get to some of these very poor places, people don't get to know, we may not get to know. But you, the leaders, most of them have been in parliament for how many years? Most of them have been running politics for much of their adult lives, know the country way better than we do, and have seen the country's development policies, have developed the development policies much more, and have access to more accurate data than we may. So they are supposed to have the compass for the nation and say, okay, this is where we are going. And the next thing is, it is their responsibility to ensure that the citizens know where the country is going, so that our job will be to remind them of our shared vision, and then to remind them of some of the gaps that have come as a result of that journey. But if it gets to the point where the citizens are now the ones ranting, and then when we ask for water before water is provided, we talk about Galamsey, then there's something is done. Once we take our attention off Galamsey, then it is worse. Then we ask about road, we go to school, then you come to road and everything is a mess. That means there's no clarity, there's no direction, there's no focus.
So let me come back to something I raised when you were away, which was controversial, but which I still stand by. Remember last 2 weeks, I said that the Chinese believe they have a democracy, and the Western people say it's not a democracy. And then there are many types of government. Now, if you look globally, there are 4 government systems that have brought development. So the Western model has worked generally for the Western people. You can say the Oriental model has also worked for the Japanese, it's worked for the Koreans, it's worked for the Singaporeans, and it's working for the Chinese. The Oriental model is strong developmental state. They don't listen to what people say. They don't elect their leaders. They select their leaders. But the leaders are legitimate not because they are elected, but because they work, they perform. Then you can say you have the Scandinavian system, which is like a high taxation democracy. They tax you to death, but the government is trusted to distribute. So when I went to Denmark, I had to get a receipt for everything, because you will be taxed. The system is social spending at the top. So if you live in Denmark as a lawyer, Sky, you pay about 55% income tax, but your school fees will be low. You won't pay for healthcare. Your roads will work. So you have the Western capital-driven model. You have the Japan-Asia model, China, Korea. Then you have the Scandinavian social democracy type model. You have the Arab or Emirati model, where you have a monarchy who has a vision for the Emirates, and he decides what to do for the people. Then you have the dysfunctional, in my view, African systems, where you are, even India is dysfunctional in a way, where you have an illusion of people power, but the leaders are not delivering. And I'm looking at the long term, all right? So what I'm saying is that the Americans know what works for them. Wall Street is powerful. The corporate institutions are strong. There is poverty there, but they have managed to tar all their roads. They have general good education, general good healthcare, right? The Asians are also rising. The Arab sheikhs are doing what they do. The Scandinavians do what they do. The question for us, right, is what system works? Now, let's come back to the discussion we are having. Why should, if the leaders, if they are delivering, I don't even need to come and tell them that fix a road or do this. So I'm not even sure people power is the issue. Do you understand? The whole idea of democracy where people have a say, I think is overrated. The point is there a national vision being implemented? And is the vision improving lives? Do you understand? And for me, when I look at the Western model, I look at the Asian model, I look at the Scandinavian model, I look at the sheikhs. I feel like all those citizens are having life improvement in a generation. I don't even know what we are doing. You understand?
The focus is not the model.
Yeah, so for me, it's a leadership problem. So, which is why I say the leadership has not prioritized the development of the nation. I think the African leader, he has not decided that I will make the Africans' welfare the center of my endeavors. He wants global acceptance, so he will look at what IMF is saying, he will look out for what the Western countries are saying. He also, in a sense, wants self-preservation. He's not prepared to pay the price to lead by example, to change people's minds, because it's too hard. All right? If you want to change a people, you have to change the way they think. It's too difficult in a 4-year election cycle in Ghana's case. But it's not even Ghana, because even the West African countries who don't even have our case, they are not even doing that much better. Is Guinea doing better than us? Is Mali? They are not. So it's not even about democracy. It's almost like there's an African problem. So I come back to your decolonization, which is very critical. You're saying the African leader has not been able to claim ownership of his development. Whether he is a Ghana who has a liberal democracy, or he is a Nigeria with a quasi-democracy, or he is a Guinea or Guinea-Bissau with whatever they have, or a Somalia or Ethiopia. They have not been able to transform their countries in a generation. So I feel like that's the question. So our challenge as people who are on air is, how do we get people to start thinking about prioritizing our development and our dignity? What should we do? Is it to say, let's change the way we educate people? Let's do programs that make people begin to believe in themselves. Let's do programs that make people want to prioritize. Like, what is the missing link? How do we switch the light on for both the leaders and the citizens? I think that's the question for us as Africans. Because
so that is not idealistic.
Yeah, the African has not been able to claim the African citizen is not priority to anybody.
Not even to himself.
No.
You both of you said something. Caleb talked about the media's role being collaborative, and you raised the point about national vision. So that, yes, we may sound idealistic in what we are saying, but if we decide to respectfully, let me say this respectfully, wake up from the slumber, then we will appreciate that it is not an issue of idealistic conversation, but we need to take the bull by the horns. The problem you talk about, the African leaders' failure to undo the colonial web of how we are developing and recreate the African model, has failed because, and it's not just the African leader, but the African himself. So all of us as Africans, as Ghanaians, we failed because I go back to Godfred's point about the Accra means success. It is a certain mindset that was generated over time. And we continue to work with that mindset today. It's the same thing you talked about, seeking external validation, but in a broader context. For me, I don't have the answers. What I think as a nation we need to do, as a continent we need to do, is to go back to that word that Caleb is using, the collaboration. Have we ever, I don't recall this country having a national conversation about what should be our development model, about not even the model, what should be our development. There's a certain intentionality that is lacking. The man walking on the street and the politician sitting in the V8 have something in common. Either they don't know, or they're not thinking about what the Ghana should be, what a developed Ghana should be. Yeah. But as citizens and as governors, the people ruling us, we should have an idea what that should be. Yeah. Have we sat down? I'm not even 40, but have we sat down in the history of this country as a people, together with the governors, to sit down and have a conversation about what the national decision is to develop, to transform the lives of not just those of us sitting here, but those unborn. I don't think we've had that conversation, and it's an intentional conversation that we have to have, because that will even address some of the convenience that we live in. For instance, our indiscipline is a convenience we've created for ourselves. Somebody has failed to do their job by enforcing the laws, and so we bask in the indiscipline. And that creates a certain convenience for us. We will have to make sacrifices if we sit down and have that conversation. If we all agree that the streets of Accra are going to look like streets in Singapore with flowers, nobody's going to steal them, nobody's going to stand by the roadside and pee, we know that certain liberties that we've been taking come to an end. We have to have that intentional conversation.
I want to agree with you and say two things in my conclusion. That development conversation cannot be had if an identity conversation is not had.
Certainly.
That development conversation cannot be had if a values conversation is not had. Because who are we? What does it mean to be a Ghanaian? Okay. This competition between ethnicities, which politicians exploit during elections, which defines a lot of what we do, even in the public sector, quietly, is a symptom of the problem of lack of national identity. I'm not saying deny you an Ashanti or deny you an Ebe, but at some point you have to put Ghana ahead of that. Out of that identity will flow values. So being Ghanaian should not be I was born in this space alone, but there are certain behaviors that we agree on, which then feeds into our hard aspirations in development. So the development conversation cannot be had if the identity conversation is not had.
Certainly.
The development conversation cannot if the values conversation is not had. Now, third point, what does that mean? How does that then define who a leader is? Up until now, a leader is seen as a development agent. Again, based on what you've said and based on what I've just said, maybe we need to agree that the job of our leader before development is identity and values. Maybe, just maybe, that you cannot impose a development model on the people who don't know who they are and who don't have values that are development for oriented. All right. So the thinkers of our society, philosophers, media practitioners, MPs, or whoever is in a position of prominence, our challenge is to give people a sense of who they are through our educational system. I mean, Holland, a nation with very little land mass, puritanical values extracted from the Protestant Reformation, hard work, thrift, entrepreneurship, adventure, creates a country that essentially has a GDP which is more than most of West Africa. So there was a period where that nation was formed based on identity. That's number one. That then determines whether they even want to practice democracy or the autocracy or whatever. I gave you four. So what I'm saying is that the political system derives from the identity and the national values. So we were coupled together. Somebody created Ghana. We agreed, signed bond of 1844, went for independence. Then Nkrumah starts this project of wanting to develop. Hindsight is clear. Maybe his focus for the first decade should have been national identity, values formation as a foundation for economic transformation, not the other way around. He did try. Now, what makes our situation worse was that our detractors were very determined that was not going to happen. And they had local collaborators who were very willing to exploit the cracks to satisfy their own need. But every generation that has succeeded has had detractors. So it's not even a problem of the detractors. I think the challenge with us is that the determination of our internal detractors to work against their own interest is shocking. Okay, I feel like there has to be some things, because in every country that has tried to develop, there have been always people who have opposed it. But there are some things they agree on. For example, let's put America first. Let's put China first. We don't even want to put Ghana first. So this is my suggestion. Next year, Ghana will be 70. New Year school is happening from tomorrow. Let's not go and discuss. I think we need to have a conversation about national identity, starting from now till 2027. Let's discuss it. You remember I interviewed some guy who was saying let's create a national language. It sounded funny. Yeah, I'm not saying I agree with it. So that proposal for national language was an admission that we need things to bind us. So I'm not saying we should have a national language. That's not what I'm saying. But it is an admission that we have not created a strong sense of national identity and a strong set of values imbibed which will underpin our economic transformation or development. So every discussion we have about economic development is still a symptom of a much bigger problem of these people don't know who they are. They haven't thought carefully about what they do. So my proposal is that the leaders we need for Ghana's freedom are leaders who are ideational and yet practical. So pragmatic leaders. So we need two types. We need a leader who has two roles. A leader who shapes the way you think and helps you unite, and then uses that to make your life better. For now, we are looking for leaders to bring us economic salvation without solving the identity problem, because some of them even come to power through the divisiveness of ethnic politics.
Yeah.
So it can't succeed because our detractors use that. Go to the history of colonialism in Nigeria, southwest, southeast, north, right? It happened in Kenya, it happens in Ghana. The colonialists are very, very smart in using those ethnic fault lines to perpetuate instability, which we are ever so willing to agree to. So we need to say that, look, Nigeria, Ghana, whoever we are, we have in 69 years been fighting ourselves to try and strive for advantage, whether I'm an Igbo or Hausa or Yoruba man. If we don't start thinking about one Ghana, one Nigeria as the starting point of development, we don't have a chance. Number two, that one Nigeria or that one Ghana that we are forming, we have to deliberately imbibe those values in the next generation, because it is values that determine the destiny of a nation. Lee Kuan Yew says culture is destiny. Right? I read a book and I'll summarize it. Even in China, there are differences in collectivist behavior on the basis of whether they grow wheat or rice. Why? The rice growers, rice requires collaborative effort. If you are growing rice on a terrace, you need about 4 layers of water to come from somebody else's rice farm. You need people to work in line to plant it, to cultivate it. So he did a study and said all the counties that were rice growing were more communal and collective than the counties that were wheat growing, because wheat is an individual thing. It grows on a flat land. Rice grows on a terrace. What is this saying? Even within country, there are differences in values on the basis of how people live. He's thought through it and written an article about it. So if you take that map of China, the rice provinces are collectivist and the wheat provinces are individualistic. This is somebody who's thought about it and written it. So my question is, who is reflecting on the way we are as Ghana and say, okay, let's harvest the best 5 values. Ebers are respectful and hardworking. Kwewus are industrious and entrepreneurial. Gans are organized as people who work in structure, as an example. Fantis are this. So a nation called Ghana, this is the best of what we have. And this is what we will teach our kids, that if you are a Ghanaian and you are an Ewe, you don't just have to be hardworking. You must also be respectful, but you must also be entrepreneurial.
Must be organized.
So when you put those 4 values together, then you say, this is what we will teach you, what it means to be a Ghanaian. Teach it for decades. Then that sense of identity means that when he's in China to learn, or he's in Denmark to do his masters, he still knows that this is what makes me a Ghanaian. So when he comes back to work in Ghana, He applies the knowledge he learns in China or US to put Ghana first. But for now, he is living on self-interest. He's not been trained to put his country first. He's been trained to see Sky as his enemy because he's from a different ethnic group. And therefore, it's easy for somebody holding a white bar from another country to come and tell him that if I give you this money and you do this, you and your people will be better than these other people. Do you see where I'm coming from? So we have to ask for leaders who bring a sense of identity and values. We shouldn't just vote for somebody who has an economic plan, because an economic plan without the requisite behavior to back up it, you can build a sugar factory in Komenda. If the people are not willing to grow sugar cane and to work on a plantation to get the sugar cane to become sugar, it will be a white elephant. As Sky, I think that our challenge is how do I put it? It's a behavioral mindset identity challenge. So that let's not overemphasize the hard issues. So, for example, last point, if you're even analyzing a news item, take the graphic. Don't just say GDP has grown by this, or look at the behavioral issues around the economics. Look at the way people price as an economist, and think about that pricing from a behavioral perspective and a mindset perspective, not from a hard calculation of pumping money into the city's perspective. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because our challenge is a behavioral challenge, which is years of colonization, years of miseducation, years of working against our own self-interest. So I am looking for leaders. Kwame Jechi, read him. The African philosophers, Accra-focused, Ifimamu, they argue from an Afrocentric perspective, whether they are Christians or Muslims or whatever. They still, because don't forget that the way the religion is even given to you can blind you. So it's not even Christianity or Islam that's the problem. The way you interpret it, because the people in Dubai, they are Muslims, right? As are the people in Sudan. How come the Emirati Muslims are doing better than the Sudanese Muslims? The people in America allegedly are supposed to have been Christians. So it's the way you so it's a mindset. The way you practice it is what is making you a slave. So it's a very deep issue that requires, and I am happy with the platform, because how many students can I teach in a classroom for them to know what I'm saying? Hopefully somebody listening can make sense of it. But I am looking for leaders who will change my mindset, which is why do we like Nkrumah? He left us things to think about. He didn't just build Akosombo Dam or Temahabo. He wrote about neo-colonialism, the last stage of imperialism. He wrote it. You get it? That's why they killed him. Nkrumah's threat to the West was not his economic ideas or his economic policies. It was his ideas that they wanted to kill. They banned his books. Why did they ban his books? Why did they ban his books? Why would they ban his books? Why didn't they destroy the motorway or destroy Akosombo Dam? So why are you looking for leaders who build you another dam? Why was his book so difficult to get? Because when the light gets open in your head, you are going to be a free man. So let's put his statue there, but let's destroy his books. So he was in a difficult situation in a new nation. But we have 70 years next year. We can't repeat that. So what do? Let's amplify voices that come up with ideas. People who will help us have a proper sense of national identity. Let's weed out the charlatans who exploit ethnicity, religion, and all these things to divide us. If we don't do that, we can never develop. As I sit here right now, I'm even having hope in my children more than myself, because I have already been badly damaged. I think our children stand a better chance, which is why we must protect them, if we can, from some of the things we ourselves have become victims of. We have to be careful the way we raise our kids when we are watching TV, the things we say. When some politician comes on the TV set, you say something, your kids are watching. When another ethnic group comes on, for this body as on way. If you don't deliberately train your kids to have a sense of nationality and values, It's not going to work. Because you and I, we are old already. We are already old. We started this job in our 20s. We are in our 40s. Sky, we are old. So I am saying that let's use Ghana at 70 to redefine the map. And let's start. Mahama will do his best. Yeah. Of the old stock, I think he has the best chance to do what he has to do. Yeah. But a leader who can change the way you think about yourself is a rare breed. All the leaders we respect globally, they didn't just do economics. Behavior. Godfrey, read the comments and let's close.
But I'm just saying that the behavior won't change.
No, you're also old. You're also old.
No, I'm not.
Caleb has more hope than you.
No,
you're old. No, you're old. You're like me. You're old. You're old.
Caleb, are you hopeful?
You're old. You're old.
You're
old.
I'm hopeful.
You're old.
For the urban youth.
Oh,
it gets better.
For the urban youth.
Yeah.
For the urban youth.
You are old.
You know, let me tell you. I'll read a message, but I just want to take a minute off to. You've cut me off.
Godfrey is going to switch.
Yes. Read the comments. Read the comments. Sorry, let me say
For comments.
Oh, switch.
No, I forgot you. I think you need to
Counsel.
make it. Let me hear him.
I'm asking what I do to me.
There is hope. I'm for hope.
Audacity of hope.
I'm for hope. Allow me to express hope. You know, my only concern with the hope is the way our politicians, and by our politicians, I mean the two political parties, MPP and NDC, have their claws into the spine and brain of a large chunk of our populace. You talk about the philosophers and all those who have shaped other countries. The philosophers of our time are Mr. Yando in Kumasi, Ashanti region. If I say I'll mention names, you are laughing. You know I am right.
We're also here.
No, yeah, I get you, but you see, but here's the thing. You see, it is the people who consume us in terms of our numbers, and those people, you see, and because they are roving philosophers, you and I sit in this chair in Accra.
They move.
They travel. They are in cars. They are on bicycles. They are on tricycles, spreading their philosophy,
their gospel.
And for me, a large part of that philosophy requires the people you are talking about who need that development to remain ignorant and poor.
Yeah.
So there is generally truly no interest in removing those people or closing that gap. Because if that gap closes, if those people are removed from that space, these philosophers lose relevance.
Why are you calling them philosophers?
Because that is who they are.
Why are you doing that? Kwame Chechi will not be happy with you.
I wrote the paper on Kwame Chechi.
It's not right.
No, but I'm saying these are the philosophers of our time. Remember, last time I tweeted something that I don't know whether it is me or it is how we find ourselves. But there's been I don't know what to make of this our political class, because they don't write enough. We don't know what they stand for. And the political parties themselves have their principles all over the place. So you spoke about the different models. China is very clear that it is a democratic dictatorship. It is written in the CCP Red Book. The Scandinavians are very clear in what type of democracy they have. It is, if you ask a 5-year-old Scandinavian child, Swedish, Danish, Norwegian, Finnish kid, what kind of democracy do you practice in your country? They will tell you what it is. Its structure, its ideology. If you ask a Southeast Asian person, what are you practicing in your country? They will tell you. The Indians will tell you exactly what their system is and what the ideology is. Okay? Ours is very different. 20 years ago, if you spoke to an NDC or NPP politician and asked them to explain what MPP is, what NDC is, it will be an intriguing conversation. The one person I see perhaps who could have a proper conversation about what NDC's philosophy is, perhaps it's Fifi Abikwete. The MPP, I don't know who I can have that conversation with. But 20, 30 years ago, you know who you would be able to have that conversation with and push and say, are these the principles of your party? That push development, that push how you move the country along, how you bring, you close that gap. So I see the development that we need, but I also see that the people who are supposed to help us are not as vested in it because we don't even know if they actually understand it. So I look at if I take the MPP manifesto or the NDC manifesto, after other political parties, I'll even talk about them. If I take the MPP manifesto, I take the NDC manifesto and I read it, there are times where there are two parties that are supposed to be on opposite sides of the political ideology, but it's like you're reading the same document.
Same stuff.
It's like, this the...
But that's good. It means that national identity will not be difficult to get.
So
we can attain.
I am just struggling because at this moment we are just very elephant and umbrella biased. There is a middle class that gives us hope, but even they, under reasonable pressure,
will bulk. Well, we should cultivate our audience. So I feel like, my calculation is the so-called evangelists of the new philosophy, whatever.
The new philosophers, yes.
Our job is not to say we have a better system, but to excel to bring in more apostles. Because I believe I have a good message. That's why I come here every morning. That's why I do what I do. So we don't have to have an excuse. If the number of people who listen to us grows and the people who think around identity, values grows, we have a better chance, which is why we keep doing what we're doing. So I will not say I lose hope at all. And those of you listening, if you believe that this is the right way to go, tell other people about it. Let's grow the church. Let's grow the audience. So it's not for collection, but for change. Coming up next is effective living.
Why didn't you say the shrine?
Because they don't collect offering in shrine. They don't collect. Because I'm a Christian. Become a Christian. No. This guy don't.
But his question is valid.
No, let's not.
Bernard, allow me.
You have your
you have spoken all along.
Why are you questioning my choice of words?
No, I said why did you? I didn't question.
Because that's what I understand.
I didn't question in the sense of attacking what you said.
That's what I've been raised for. That's what I've been.
You see, you spoke about religiosity
you are
or the characterization of the same as to impact what we do as a people.
You pick on one thing I say and you create a whole.
You should hear him out.
You see, it's important.
You talk. I'm listening to you.
You know, I just returned from the Volta region, right? And I can say without any fear of contradiction that in parts where I have been, right, where there is a certain understanding of what is good and what is bad, and how that is paid for if you do one or the other. Hold on, this is important, right? There is a certain sense of responsibility, right? What people are afraid of, right? And so if you do A, this is the punishment. If you do B, this is how you are rewarded. Now the question is, how have we translated that into our being? You're talking about the African identity, the Ghanaian identity. Of course, the Ghanaian concept is something people put together and say, we're saying that, let's hope it works.
Let's build it.
Right? But if you go into these individual communities, what people are afraid of, the Antwas.
Is it working?
The Nogoko.
Is it bringing development?
Bernard, you see, the question you should ask yourself is whether people have acted with a certain belief that if I go and tell the people that this is what I'm promising and I don't do it, there's a punishment for it, right? So when you steal and you are hauled before the Nogopo Shrine, for instance, there's a certain sense that you are going to be met with proper justice because you have to pay for it. But in the context of other religions, which we say we have taken, do people go, steal money from the people, go back to church, for instance, right? Contribute that as their own tithe or whatever it is,
and be given tithes,
and be given an opportunity to actually flaunt themselves in front of the room.
My challenge.
No, hold on. I just want to wrap up
with you is that you see,
But
we have a lot of time to discuss this.
I know.
You chose not to talk.
No, I'm
when
not.
I want to end the thing, then now you are bringing.
No, because you see, because you made a point. That's why I came in. I didn't really want.
I made a comment in passing, which has become the basis of your whole submission.
No. Hold on.
I spoke for 10 minutes. You didn't say anything. I said, let's build the church. Then you jump on that and start
making triggered.
Bernard, you see,
Bernard, it's triggered something.
It's almost like you are. I was inviting you to this conversation long ago. You're not minding me.
Bernard, hold on. It's important. You see, we have a plethora of views on the show, right? My view may not be popular with you because of how you were raised. You understand? But I'm making a point that is intrinsically linked to who we are as a people.
I don't even disagree with you. I'm saying that the time you chose to make the point and the constraint on the program is not fair because I was just about to end the discussion.
I just wanted to
and then you now open a new Pandora's box which will not have time to discuss. So it's like a legal case where you've brought the matter and the court has closed. We can't argue it. So tomorrow you can continue. Because I you know what I'm saying? Because I don't know what to do now. Because you know what I'm saying? My next
you see what I've said. I'm wrapping up. Let us think about it.
Yes.
Because like I said,
yes,
I've been to areas where punishment is immediate,
yes,
and people are law observing.
Okay.
You understand?
Yes.
And then I also know of people who break the rules because they know that on Sunday they'll go to church and pray God will forgive them. Or they'll go to the mosque, confess.
Of a dysfunctional.
Exactly.
Don't forget, my argument is that this guy. We are not even speaking at cross purposes. I'm just saying.
You are basically trying to drive us apart with this.
You were completely.
Let's discover the self, the African self. That's all I'm saying.
You see, I don't want to argue this, but when you choose a word somebody uses as the basis of your overall point.
Trigger, not basis.
That's not what I said, Bernard.
Anyway, don't worry. The listeners are deciding.
Let's agree to disagree.
The listeners are saying enough.